Millions vanishing into thin air, an FBI manhunt, and a code of silence. The largest heist in U.S. history was a thriller straight out of Hollywood. In the gritty heart of Los Angeles, a gang of gunmen stormed an armored car company, leaving fear and chaos in their wake. But these criminals were no ordinary robbers. They vanished into thin air with millions in cash, leaving behind nothing but a piece of plastic. In this video, we will discuss the full story of the shocking $18.9 million heist at Dunbar Armored Robbery. $20 million in the vault, 5 armed men, and a daring heist that left LA on the edge of its seat. It was just another routine night for the armored car company, counting and sorting cash to be dispersed to ATMs across the city. But little did they know, danger was lurking in the shadows. In a matter of seconds, 5 armed men stormed the building, taking 2 security guards hostage and holding the other employees at gunpoint. The assailants showed no mercy as they made their way to the cash vault, threatening to shoot anyone who dared to resist. With millions at stake, the stakes were high and time was ticking. Will the thieves get away with the loot, or will justice be served? Find out with us. 10 minutes of pure chaos, millions of dollars, and a ruthless leader barking orders with cold precision. The leader, using only a numbered code, directed his men with a concealed radio headset. The robbers were like a well-oiled machine, wasting no movement as they loaded millions onto the truck. But that wasn't enough. They left behind a trail of destruction, removing the surveillance recorder and stealing the vault manager's pickup truck keys. As the employees feared for their lives, the robbers disappeared into the night, but the guards refused to be defeated. They took a risk and called 911. That was no ordinary heist. The robbers moved with military precision and had an insider's knowledge of the facility. LAPD detectives, led by the experienced detective John Licata, were quick to secure the scene and began their investigation. With clues that included stolen keys and a familiar voice, the team worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. But the forensics presented a shocking twist. The robbers didn't force their way in. The gunman used a key, faked forced entry, and stole $18.9 million. Robbers targeted cash bins and avoided stamps and checks, new video surveillance locations, and broke backup VCR lock. Maintenance found a broken reflector, possibly from the suspect's vehicle. Little evidence to identify the vehicle. FBI joins insured $18.9 million heist investigation. Agent studies crime scene video and seeks public help. Vague descriptions of 5 armed robbers released, believed to be black, one possibly Hispanic. Victims saw skin color through mask eye holes and heard voices. Reward offered. Employee recognizes possible robber's voice and picks ex-driver from a photo lineup. Ex-driver recently left LA for New Orleans, questioned by FBI agents. Alibi confirmed, ruled out as a suspect. Investigators believe inside job, but no solid evidence. Robbers are still at large with $18.9 million. The vault manager recognized the voice of one of the gunmen, who he believed was Alan Pace, a recently suspended employee. The FBI investigated Pace's employment history but found that he was at a party with his girlfriend on the night of the robbery, which was confirmed by witnesses. Investigators searched for physical evidence to move the case forward. A cracked amber lens found at the crime scene was the only clue they had, indicating that it came from a diesel truck used in the heist. They interviewed people who frequented the area near the armored car facility and found a homeless man who saw a mid-sized rental truck idling near the facility on the night of the robbery. The description of the diesel rental truck matched the victim's statements, and employees at truck rental facilities recognized the type of lens found at the crime scene. The lenses frequently fell off and needed replacement. Authorities subpoenaed rental truck facilities for records of rented trucks 2 months prior and after the robbery, but none were rented by Alan Pace or his girlfriend. With no concrete evidence, the FBI and LAPD began surveillance on Pace, but he did not show signs of newfound wealth. As months passed, there was little movement on the case, and the reward for information leading to a conviction reached $250,000. A witness told investigators that he had seen one of his former co-workers, Emil Mataserino, at a local shooting range shortly before the robbery. Mataserino was known to have a fascination with guns and even discussed robbing an armored car in the past. The informant also told investigators that Mataserino had recently purchased a large amount of weapons and ammunition. This lead was significant, as it provided investigators with a new suspect and potential motive for the crime. Mataserino's name was added to the list of suspects, and the investigation shifted towards gathering evidence against him and any potential accomplices. The FBI began to closely monitor Mataserino's activities and movements, hoping to catch him in the act of spending the stolen money or making preparations for another robbery. However, the investigation would take a tragic tragic turn on February 28, 1997, when Mata Serino, along with his accomplice, engaged in a shootout with police officers after attempting to rob a bank in North Hollywood. The shootout lasted over 40 minutes and resulted in the death of Mata Serino and his accomplice, as well as injuries to several police officers and civilians. In the aftermath of the shootout, investigators would recover evidence linking Mata Serino to the 1996 armored car robbery, including a notebook with detailed plans for the crime. While the investigation never led to any arrests or convictions, the shootout brought a dramatic end to the case and provided some closure for the victims and law enforcement officials involved. An informant claimed he was given $100,000 in cash by Eugene Hill to buy a home, and that Hill stored a trunk filled with smaller boxes of cash in his girlfriend's apartment. One box contained cash bundled by bank wrappers from the heist. Hill had a connection with the prime suspect, Alan Pace, and both were partners in a suspected money laundering business called Extreme Entertainment. The IRS was brought in to prepare money laundering charges against some individuals involved. 4 suspected robbers, including Alan Pace and Eugene Hill, were partners in a business called Extreme Entertainment, suspected to be used to launder money. They were investigated by the IRS, which found suspicious accounting books and discovered a second source of income for Hill from a company called Rainforest. Hill and another man, Thomas Johnson, had invested $2 million in Rainforest, a legitimate company, and a classic money laundering scheme. While the 5 men were strong suspects, no direct evidence connected them to the $18.9 million robbery. Detectives cross-referenced suspect names with truck rental records and found that Eugene Hill had rented the suspect vehicle used in the robbery. The truck was located, and an amber lens found at the crime scene was compared to the truck's light assembly. Investigators also conducted surveillance on suspect Thomas Johnson, who lived in an expensive Las Vegas home. Nearly 2 years after the robbery, the LAPD team received a call about a domestic disturbance at Johnson's home, and they used the opportunity to question his girlfriend, who was willing to answer questions about Johnson. Vegas casinos were the perfect cover for Thomas Johnson's dirty money scheme. According to his girlfriend, Johnson and his gambling buddy would buy chips worth thousands, only to have his girlfriend exchange them for cash in amounts under 10 grand to evade cash reports. But investigators face a puzzling question. Where did Johnson's fortune come from? Could it be from his gambling winnings or the rumored big job he bragged about in LA? With circumstantial evidence mounting against Johnson, Alan Pace, and Eugene Hill, it's up to the authorities to connect the dots and catch the culprits. Authorities needed to pit the suspects against each other in order to secure convictions. 2 years after a group of 6 masked gunmen robbed an armored car company of $18.9 million. Despite having strong circumstantial evidence against 5 individuals, including the FBI, IRS, and LAPD, there was no direct link to the crime. The only physical evidence recovered was a cracked amber lens found in the loading area of the armored car company, which investigators believed fell off a truck rented by suspect Eugene Hill a day before the robbery. To investigate further, the broken lens and other lenses from the truck's running lights were sent to the FBI lab in Washington, D.C. Forensic metallurgist Michael Smith compared the marks on the broken lens to those on other lenses from the truck. In this case, the marks on the broken lens resembled the rings on a tree. To determine whether they lined up or not, a high-powered comparison microscope was used. A perfect match was made, indicating that the same tool had produced all the lenses during the same work session, and that the broken lens most likely came from the truck rented by Hill. The forensic evidence was compelling, but it was not enough to definitively prove that Hill or the other 4 suspects were present during the robbery. Assistant U.S. Attorney Alka Sega needed stronger evidence before authorizing arrests, and she hoped that Hill's girlfriends would provide it. 2 of Hill's girlfriends had been identified, and both seemed to be spending cash in amounts that were suspiciously large for approximately 2 years after the robbery. It was decided that it was time to talk to these women in Hill's life. One of the girlfriends, concerned that charges might be filed against her, came forward and told investigators what she knew. She revealed that after the date of the robbery, Hill suddenly had a lot of cash. She said that Hill had stored 2 footlockers filled with boxes of cash in her apartment. She and a friend helped him count and sort thousands of bills, and Hill told her that before the new crisp bills could be spent, they needed to look worn. She even washed them to achieve the desired appearance. Thomas Johnson was said to have participated in the operation to buy gambling chips in Las Vegas with washed bills and turn them in for new cash, as confirmed by his girlfriend's statement. In exchange for her testimony, prosecutors agreed not to press charges against her. FBI agents and LAPD detectives were interested in talking to Eugene Hill's sister regarding bank accounts uncovered by the IRS. Her records showed unexplained cash deposits, as well as checks being written for motorcycles, vehicles, and other consumer goods. This raised suspicions that Eugene Hill may have been spending money he couldn't explain. explain. Hill's sister agreed to talk to investigators after making a phone call that appeared to be a numeric page. However, when questioned about her brother's financial matters, she was evasive and claimed to be unaware. Just as investigators were questioning her, Eugene Hill arrived and denied knowledge of the armored car company robbery. He refused to answer questions at that time, but agreed to meet with them the next morning at their office. Due to his significant flight risk, investigators were concerned as he appeared to be loaded with cash. The FBI arrested Eugene Hill, a suspect in an armored car company heist, based on circumstantial evidence. Assistant U.S. Attorney Alka Sager made the decision to arrest him to prevent him from alerting the others to the investigation and fleeing. A search of Hill's home found ledgers showing he had purchased real estate in other people's names, including prime suspect Alan Pace. Hill confessed and implicated Pace as the mastermind and leader of the gang. Eugene Hill knew all of the men involved in the heist except for the sixth, who was a personal friend of Alan Pace. Pace planned the robbery for a Friday night when few employees would be working. He instructed them to tie up the employees, take the money, and they would be in and out in half an hour. Hill rented the truck and met the gang at a party before midnight. During the robbery, one man stayed with the truck while the others loaded it up. They transferred the money to a storage unit rented by Thomas Johnson. The gang disposed of the guns and VCRs, changed clothes, and returned to the party as if nothing happened. Assistant U.S. Attorney Alka Sager made the decision to arrest him as letting him go could have alerted others to the investigation. Hill confessed and revealed that Alan Pace recruited him and 3 others for the robbery. The gang committed the largest armed robbery in U.S. history. Thomas Johnson, another suspect, was arrested by the FBI after they corroborated Hill's story. Johnson cooperated and confirmed Pace was the leader. When the investigators finally had enough evidence, they made a quick move and arrested everyone involved in the robbery except for the mastermind. Alan Pace, the leader, was still out there, but he knew his time was up. He contacted the authorities and arranged to turn himself in. On February 28, 2000, Pace arrived at the LA Federal Building with his lawyer. He didn't say a word and refused to cooperate with the investigators. The rest of his team didn't fare any better. 4 of them pled guilty and received prison sentences of up to 10 years. But the 6th gunman, Eric Boyd, fought the charges and was sentenced to 17 years after a grueling 3-week trial. As for Pace, the orchestrator of the $19 million heist, he received the longest sentence of them all, 24 years in prison. The FBI seized all their assets but only managed to recover about $5 million of the stolen money. The rest is still missing, leaving us to wonder if it was spent or hidden somewhere else. But the felons should be aware the FBI is watching. If they try to make any moves to recover the hidden money, they'll go straight back to jail. This is the untold story of a daring heist that ended in a long prison sentence for the mastermind.